UGLY. City ain't got no alibi. That was ugly. But ball watching is back with you all today for a recap of a match. And let's keep this one quick, Justin, because I don't think anyone wants to spend much more time thinking about it, but we'll try to draw a little bit of knowledge from it best we can. But though I don't think there's too much to say, but Justin, let's just kind of hop right into the one-word summaries from last night. I'm going to lead off with mine. It looked like we were nursing a serious hangover in this game. We did not look like ourselves at all. I think Carnell said it in his post-game press conference. Probably top 3 worst performance I've seen from this team all season. Just did not look like City at all. And I think part of it's because we just clinched. It's hard to get up and get the boys roused up to play when there's not much to play for at this point and you're on short rest. And, I think they also got a foot in this big layoff that we have coming up for the next couple of weeks here as international break ensues. So, understandable, but they showed it last night. They did not look like they were very interested whatsoever.
No, but I was pretty excited looking when the lineup came out. I was like, wow, I mean, it's some rotation, obviously, and we'll talk about the individuals and when we get to player ratings. And then also looking at the game, it did not look like there was much atmosphere whatsoever. I'm like, all right, we might sneak out of here and actually get a dub here, or at least come out with a point. The guys did not show any want to do that whatsoever. So my one word is just from Bethany Haskins. We were hanging out with my buddy Jake Sisters and Tap. She just goes, "Oh," like every time they scored, she was like, "Oh, there it goes." And it's like, yeah, we were like talking up City this whole night, like top of the West, like we're doing so well. Me and Jake are season ticket holders, like, "Oh." So that's my one word.
That's unfortunate. Not a good representation they put on for. But yeah, that was, just going to get this one out of the way. But let's jump into the limited subset of highlights that we have here, Justin, for this one. In the early on, I was looking for stuff that we could talk about, and I will say we saw some good examples of our counter press on early in the night in the second minute between Leuven, Nico, and Nerwinski. We also saw Yarrow get called into action early on in the game in the 4th minute. He had a good read on a ball over the top to cut that out and slide it out, I believe, for a throw. At the time, Nerwinski looked pretty lively as well early on in the game, cutting out crosses, had some great sliding tackles. Justin, show me the stat. I want to go out on a limb here and say that I think Jake Nerwinski might be leading the league in slides this season. I'm not saying tackles. I'm just saying slides.
I'll do a little digging, see where he's at in tackles per game, maybe. But yeah, absolutely. The man, and when he does slide, he wins the ball every time. I don't care if it's a cross in or if someone has it at their feet. He is winning that every time, and I absolutely love it.
It kind of reminds me, Justin, remember when we were kids and you're starting to up your technical ability and you're starting to get the idea of a sliding tackle being really cool, and that kid on your team that just loves to slide tackle. Like, this dude's leaving his feet at any possible moment, anytime he can, even when it's totally unnecessary, loves to slide. I feel like that's Jake Nerwinski.
That was definitely me at one point. And then when I got to college, I realized that some of these guys were much bigger and much better at sliding than me. And I just tried to jump whenever I saw them coming in hot. Philip Pavicic, Julian Giesecke, like some of these guys were just Robbie Christo, shout out St. Louis, would absolutely just take you out shin high.
Yeah, you don't want to see those coming at you at all, but he does it quite often. Otherwise, there was some the VAR obviously got involved right away in this game in the 21st with Yarrow. I'm still going to say a pretty reckless challenge to slide out kind of in front. It's usually you slide kind of laterally. He kind of just threw his feet out forward to make a challenge on, I believe it was Ryan Gauld. And thankfully he did clip the ball with his lead foot prior to getting a lot of Ryan Gauld. And they did not call it a PK at first. And then the ref was, I think, told over VAR that they thought it might be a challenge worthy of a penalty. And so he goes to review it in the monitor. Usually, I will say, most of the time, that there means they're going to reverse the call. It's very rare, I feel like, where you go to the monitor and you hold firm on your call. But I do think it was the right call, but still very reckless on Josh Yarrow.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it was weird. And we talk about all this sliding. Almost always you will slide to the side and do like a wraparound. Like when someone's right in front of you, when you slide, you're pretty much just like opening your legs, and you can leave like your cleats up, and it gets very dangerous there. I thought it was clean. I will say the announcers, one just general overall low light as well. They called him Euro, like a goddamn Greek rap. Like, I don't understand that. And before the game, they even said Ryan Berkey. We had someone in our DMs like, did you guys hear that? And I was like, I didn't have the sound on for the pregame. They called him Ryan Berkey. Like, who are they hiring?
Yeah, I don't think it was the A-listers last night. I agree. I couldn't even tell you who it was, and I've been used to some of the people that we've had this season, but I couldn't remind you or who that name was, or who those folks were on there. But they weren't great, and we weren't great either, especially in that first half. I mean, we were, I think, already looking at switching up formations. I saw Carnell in the 34th minute gesturing like a diamond formation in the midfield, because I think we kind of went with the 4-2-3-1 to start. And it just wasn't working, man. We had, I want to say, like negative XG in the first half. It was awful. There was just nothing going. And yeah, maybe it was part, the turf and the pace of play. And I don't know, man. We didn't look up to it. Leuven, had a good dangerous cross in the 40th minute for Nico on a quick break. But otherwise, I don't really remember any offensive highlights outside of that. There was some good defensive stuff. Tim putting a great body on his man on a through ball. Luton come out and pick that up in the 45+7. Some good blocks, but like it was otherwise a pretty drab first half.
No, I mean, they even had a goal that got called back in VAR, and we'll talk about that in the lowlights as well in 37th for gold. But yeah, there's a lot of good highlights on defense because there needed to be, because we showed no offense. They had 19 shots and only 7 landed on goal, but a lot of that's because we were making blocks, or they were just missing them over the top or just to the side of the net. It was not even a nervy first half. I thought we could have been down 2 or 3-0 in the first half.
Should have been. I think the biggest highlight of the first half was getting in 0-0. I mean, how they did that was baffling. Otherwise, you came out with some changes in the second half. Obviously, introduced AZ, who immediately kind of has an impact in the 47th, has a nice rip on a volley after coming in, like I said, at halftime. Blum also brought his shooting boots as well, had a volley just outside the 18 off of a corner that he was cleaning up, just missed the right post. This would be the type of game that we're hanging our hat on some of these opportunities. I think there was like 6 total shots that we had all game. 2 of them were on target, so we weren't really troubling the goalkeeper at all. And those quality of chances weren't great either. But that'd be the type of game that somehow we do score one of those just bangers from 30 yards out, a Blum volley from deep, and we somehow come out of that in a tie and just like robbers. But it was not to be last night. The highlights, I mean, you can cover us off for the rest of the second half, you're Justin, before we go into the stats and lowlights, but there just wasn't that much.
No, I really did think that, like you said, that this was going to be one of those games where maybe we sneak out with a point by hitting a banger, because we brought on Joao in the 63rd, which was a surprise to me. And then the 71st brought on Thor and Indy as well. So it looked like and then we brought on Celio in the 79th. Like, Carnell was still gunning for it. I mean, all of those subs, we were only down 1-0 at that point. So we were still definitely going for the dub. We were not trying to sit back. There were not a whole lot of highlights in the second half, Jake, and being honest. It's just, we had the volley in the 48th, and then my next one was 75th. We had good team possession, but it ended up fizzling out, going nowhere. Yeah, I would say a minute later, they're off a corner kick. Yarrow had a good touch to Markinick. He just missed the reacher that he could have took a touchdown and hit it there. And then there was a great save by Lund on the 77th as well. And then I will say after that, not a whole lot. Again, I have one last one in the 85th with Klaus with a softball to Celio, and just gets the press back into it, and then a ball with they have a great chance back in, but it was end up being blocked, and that's it. Like, saying that a block was a highlight for us in the second half is sad overall.
It's rough. And you look at the stats for last night, your blue for Vancouver and your red where City won. The only thing that we won in last night was blocks, clearances, and saves. So it was a rough night for the boys in red. We got our butts handed to us by a team that desperately needed that, and obviously we were the team that didn't. So it really showed last night. And this isn't a referendum on the team, but you could show that our priorities weren't really set on winning this game or getting a result here. And then getting into the lowlights, I thought Blum and Leuven, I mean, for lack of a better term, were pretty much awful in the first half. Just not good at all. Maybe borderline better in the second when they get some more guys around them that complement their abilities, but they were just not generating much at all. Leuven's passes were all underhit or inaccurate. I feel like Blum was doing some needless foul, especially in a dangerous area. And you saw in the 7th minute, he gave away a pretty good free kick. Tim Parker had brutal clearance in the 9th minute. It was a bad giveaway. He kind of just toe poked it out and didn't go far enough. And Gald kind of carries it up the pitch, can't connect. Brian White ends up with the opportunity at his foot, curls it wide. Thank God. It was a great opportunity for them. Like I said, some poor Leuven giveaways and undercooked passes. Yarrow had that careless slide we already talked about that caused a VAR review. It felt like they were knocking on the door pretty heavily throughout most of the first half.
Yeah, and then specifically on the other VAR, on the goal. So I would say Josh was kind of in no man's land on the outside with the guy ball, and then Gall just kind of walks in on an in-swinger and scores it. But thank God he was offside. You called it. You were like coming back or something. You texted me. I'm like, what do you mean? I didn't know if I was behind you or what. And you saw it live. So good for you for that. Otherwise, no other lowlights in the first half. As we kind of keep going, I would say just generally in the first half, I know you kind of touched all of those, but I'm just going to jump straight to their goal in the 59th. Leuven was dribbling up the middle of the field, kind of falls down. I don't know if he was looking for a foul there. And then the ball up to White, and it's coming. It's almost like where Josh Yarrow and White were going to meet. And I thought that's where Josh just absolutely runs through him. You get the ball or the man or both, but you can't let both get by you. And he did. And White gets through with a header and he finishes 1v1. Almost a save on Lund there. I will say getting big for him. It's not one that I expected him to save, but it's just off the inside of his leg. See what five hole there? Yeah. And so unfortunately, I think that one is just more on Josh.
Yeah, it is. The way he played that was so defensively. It was bouncing. It was all there to be won, and Brian White was just hungrier on it. And that was just kind of the theme of the night for me, was they just looked hungrier. But yeah, he puts his head down, puts it ahead of Parker and Yarrow. Parker's not anywhere near that, and neither of them had the recovery speed to catch up. So, I mean, a good finish from Brian White. I think in the second goal, they scored in the 82nd. By the way, late goal extravaganza once again here. I mean, it's getting to a point where I'm really concerned about our late game defending. I don't care that we are down 1-0. I don't care if we're up 1-0. I just feel like every goal we concede, there's probably like a 90% chance that it's in the last 10-15 minutes of the game, and that was no different last night. They scored in the 82nd. Nerwinski had a great slide to clear the initial cross, but Berhalter ended up back with it at the top of the 18. And you know what? Hats off to him. He had a great curling shot into the far left corner. Lund couldn't do anything about it, but it all kind of started off of a weird aerial challenge that Tim Parker came down a little bit hard on, it looked like, and he was not able to recover to his position in time to get back in defense. So I wonder like what actually had happened to him there. But yeah, I mean, a good finish, but again, we're not able to clear our lines effectively enough, and they get a chance and they put it away.
Yeah, and then on the 90th, on the last goal, Leuven, another turnover in the midfield. Vancouver takes it down the right side. Nice cutback, touch with the left across top, and then just finishes just inside of the 18 in the bottom corner. Was that the one that you were talking about that Tim Parker was still down at half on?
I think that was the second one. The 82nd. Yeah, the 82nd minute.
Yeah. And I will say on both of those, it's one of those where I don't know if our defense was dropping too deep, but we didn't have Blum or obviously Leuven was one that lost the ball. No one was at the top of the box where these guys are sitting, collecting the ball and then finishing. So we got to figure that out. Everybody, when they saw the cutback, they all just kind of looked and then was like, oh, you're going to go or you're not going to go. I'm going to go. And we all tried to run last minute and no chance to get to it to try to get a block there. So yeah, late goals again, Jake. I mean, yes, it was a decently rotated team. But I'm not giving that an excuse at this point. I mean, with the chemistry of these guys, they practice together every day. We've been together for well over a year now. When you think about most of these guys playing for City too, you just got to grind through it. I know, like you said, it's harder to get up, especially with the travel, and we already clinched, and now we have 3 full days off where they're not even going to see each other, just go home, rest and relax, and then we're going to get back into it. But now we need to, I literally said it before I left the office. I was talking to somebody, I'm like, the last thing I want is a rotated squad. We lose like a 3 or 4-0 game. And now we get to think about it before we play our next regular season game for 2.5 weeks. I understand that we already have everything locked up, but now those guys are just sitting and thinking about it. And I don't like that mindset.
I hope they're not thinking about it too much, or I hope Carnell and the coaching staff do well to move them on from it, because it just, like I said, it was very uncharacteristic performance last night, top to bottom. I mean, we looked, and Carnell said this as well in the post game, we looked like we were caught between many different principles and ways of playing. We weren't pressing together as a team. We weren't counter pressing together as a team. We weren't doing our transition defending. We got ripped apart in the transition last night. We looked stretched at times. Sometimes we looked overly compact and gave away too much space. Like every I feel like playing style or philosophy, we were trying bits and pieces of everything versus committing to one last night and making it hard for Vancouver to adjust. So not a good performance at all last night. Like I said, I think it was one of our worst, in fact, that I've seen, but I'm also not overly worried about it. I think that's what happens sometimes when you have players that you switch in and out and you do a rotated game like this and you lack chemistry. And these guys clearly showed that last night. And I think, yeah, there was a little bit of a hangover to it. There wasn't much to play for, but now I think you've got your work cut out for you. You got a good Seattle team coming home to City Park here with a record on the line that you're going to want to win at City Park. So, I'm not worried about it. We've shown that we can take advantage of rest. So I'm hoping that it's no different for us here. But we got to go back to our segment here, Justin. Who was City's heart and soul last night for you, Justin?
It's kind of a joke, Jake, but I really couldn't call anybody out that played overly well. So I said anyone that's a fan that stayed up for the full 90, and unfortunately had to watch the last 3 goals. Like one with it a 9:30 p.m. start, but 2 also us just getting trounced in the second half and the entire game. If you even watched through the second half and didn't go to bed, you are also the heart and soul of this team. So SEOUL for Soul Juice. Who was your heart and soul, Jake?
I'm actually going to give mine to Ben Lund. I felt bad for him. Kind of was left out to dry last night. I don't think he could have done much more about the 3 goals that were conceded, and that was his first MLS appearance, despite being with Cincinnati for a little bit and never seeing the field for an MLS game for them. So I felt for him. I thought he made some good saves, but I don't think he was set up to succeed much either. So I felt for him. At least my heart goes out to him for this one. But yeah, heart and soul brought to you by Soul Juice, our sponsors. We have some potentially exciting news around an event that could coincide with the Seattle game coming up here as well. So be on the lookout for that. But Soul Juice, we talk about it all the time here. It is a product that we fully believe in. 3 ingredients: water, organic lemon juice, and Korean pear juice. All the 3 things that you need, the trifecta that you need in your life to stay healthy, stay active, rehydrate, and take care of your body. And then you have the pitch for your other types of vices, for those who like to eat and indulge ourselves in the alcoholic beverage occasionally. Drink responsibly. We love to do it at the pitch. The pitch is an incredible forum to watch all types of sporting fixtures, not just your City games, but I know that we'll be showing out there for the Seattle game coming up here and for the playoff run and as well.
Yeah, I will say, get to the pitch literally this Saturday. Mizzou has a massive game at 11 a.m. at home versus LSU, putting the 5-0 record on the line. Go watch it at the pitch and enjoy a day there. I think I'm going to go there, bring my family down there, have some people coming to town. Unfortunately, I can't make it to the actual Mizzou game. Jealous of everybody else that can. But yeah, Soul Juice. Go to souljuice.com. Get it for 20% off there. Get it at Deerberg, Sam's, and a couple other places coming up. I know we keep saying that, but we will drop it as soon as we can as well. The last general thing I'm going to say, Jake, and I texted you, completely forgot that they'd be playing on turf last night. Yeah. I hated watching it. I hate turf. Both of my ACLs hated turf. And just watching it on TV, it doesn't look good. I feel like it's a completely different style of soccer as well. I'm not blaming anything of the game on that. I just don't like it.
No, I don't think it has a place in the game at this point. It just doesn't. I mean, if FIFA doesn't allow that for World Cups, why are we allowing that? Like, do you see turf in other, I'd say formidable soccer leagues around the world? Not really. At this point, not really at all. I mean, I can't think of any, English Premier League, Liga Un and La Liga, like who plays on turf? No one plays on turf. If you're taking the game seriously and you're taking health and player safety seriously, we've shown there's evidence that turf is not good for that kind of stuff. And also, like you said, from a sporting perspective, who says that they prefer turf? No one. And that's from a safety and speed of play thing. So I mean, it's ridiculous that we're still having to do that. And so I'm really looking forward to the days where we can put that formally behind us. But Justin, let's move into player ratings for this one. I don't know what to really say here. I don't feel like anyone screamed last night that, I need to be penciled into the team sheet against Seattle. I mean, no one, not one person. And I know there were some guys that will be on that team sheet. We got like probably Marcanic, obviously Leuven and Blum, but no one to me really stood out and screamed, I need to be included here. I'll go into a couple specifically. we just Adeniran did not look great last night either. We haven't really spoke. Did we even mention him at all in the highlights or lowlights? Not really. Joaquini, I'm worried about him. Ever since that shoulder thing that he had, he has been a shadow of himself, and I think he's also kind of been relegated to coming off the bench with the emergence of Adeniran and Klaus returning back to full form and fitness. But no one really just reached out and took the opportunity last night. A guy like Ostrak didn't really show me much of anything. Josh Yarrow, I don't think played that well. Thank God for his speed, because he was caught in some moments where he had to use that and recover. But overall, just a really ugly night, kind of all around the team.
No, I'm going to go with literally just a B-. And the only reason I'm going to say B-, Jake, is I'm not going to blame it on this, but like we said, long travel, getting up for a game after we just clinched. These guys really don't care. They already are looking past this into this nice 2.5 week break. So that's what I'm going to go with. There are no individuals that I'm going to call out because we just had lowlights. I don't think we had highlights really for anyone. And unfortunately, this was not a good game for Leuven either. I think we had a couple turnovers from him. And then Yarrow, obviously, with the first goal. Those are more specific ones that stick out in my mind. But I don't have highlights for anyone. And sorry, I was a little distracted because when we were talking about turf, I just wanted to mention 2030 World Cup. We will now be having it at Spain, Portugal, Morocco. And the first 3 games will actually be down in Argentina, Paraguay, and Uruguay for the 100th anniversary of the World Cup.
It's so stupid. That makes no sense at all. I mean, I get it from a historical perspective, but like it just screams to me. Someone had a great tweet about this, and I fully and wholeheartedly agree how greedy and disgusting the hands of FIFA are. Like the fact that we are going to have a World Cup across 3 different continents, 6 different countries, that's a nightmare for those players. Who wants to do that? I know there's some history behind it, but why? I don't know why they're doing this. It makes the triple bid from US, Mexico, Canada look like the best idea ever. If you're looking at now a 6-country World Cup, I mean, am I going to watch it? Is it going to be fun for storylines? For sure. But how they're evolving and doing and making these decisions, you got to wonder how much money's being slid under the table to have these things slip by, because what players, coaches, organizations, national teams are signing off on this?
I'm also intrigued because usually you have the first games be the host country or countries, but there's no chance they're flying Spain, Morocco, and Portugal down there. Like I'm assuming it's got to be home games for Uruguay, Argentina, and all of them also get automatic bids, which good for them. But the fact that Uruguay, and I mean, Argentina and Uruguay would likely be there anyways. But Paraguay, I don't really know if they would get in, but they're just getting an automatic bid because they're hosting 1 game. I just think that's a little much.
It's just,
we'll touch on it all later. We're going to have a couple. Now that we have a 2.5 week break, we have an exciting interview coming up.
Yeah.
And then we will also be touching on decision day, and we'll get into all of that with that as well. But Jake, let's round this one out, at least for predictions and bets before we go where we go from here, and then a little bit touching on playoffs. But predictions. I think I predicted a 2-1 loss. So, hey, I got it right. We talked about it. That was like my emotional hedge, I guess is what you'd say. As far as the bet goes, I was waiting for the lineups to drop before I made a bet. I ended up taking the double chance at plus 135. That was my only bet, so that did not hit. But I didn't really throw on an individual goal scorer because I still didn't even know if we were going to score a goal.
Yeah. 2 things. I'll give you mine as well. But 1, I want to be graded by you on my job performance and everything going forward, because B- is friendly. Dang. I don't know if I would go even above like a D for these guys last night. It was awful. It was so bad. Like it reminded me of like the RSL home loss that we had, where we just looked like a shadow of ourselves. But I'll give myself an F on the predictions and the bets last night because I was leaking money. But I predicted a 2-2 draw. I also predicted we'd actually get up to play this game, and I was wrong. But I also bet the parlay in over 2.5 of both teams to score, and over 2.5 didn't hit, obviously, and double chance. So it just, at no point in that game did I feel confident at all in the bets. once the game actually started, the whistle blew. But I'm also generally, to kind of wrap us up here, I'm not going to overreact to this either. Yeah, it was ugly, but I have a smile on my face because it's over, and I don't want to see it again. And I hope that that's just out of our system. And I hope that everyone feels the same, because I don't think it's a referendum on the team or our performance or who we are. I think it's just a bad blip on our schedule and a bad blip of a team performance. And hopefully that's it.
Yeah, and I will say, so as we were on this, yeah, B- was probably a little nice, but I'm just saying I understand them, like the guys going all the way up there trying to play this game. That's the only reason I'm giving them a little bit there. But Jake, what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to share my screen and kind of talk about a little bit of the playoffs. So last night we talked about it on the preview that we were the only team to clinch so far, which I thought was absolutely insane. But now there are a total of 6 teams clinched. So if you look at it, Seattle clinched for the second, or clinching the playoffs. These spots are not locked on what position they're in, but they're at least in the playoffs. Seattle, LAFC, Real Salt Lake, Vancouver, and Houston. So massive win last night for Vancouver to now clinch. And the one thing I want to brag about you for calling this out was the fact that it looks like Houston clinched with 45 points. You know who was also clinched with only 45 points? Nashville. And we've been talking about it all season that we said 45 points is literally the line that you have to get over to clinch. Yes, it could change by a point here or there, but right now they are clinched with their 45 points. Massive upcoming games here for Portland, San Jose, and Dallas as they are in the 7th, 8th, and 9th spot. And then you get Austin, Kansas City, and Minnesota. We're only 3 points out of a wild card spot as well. It's going to be a very interesting upcoming games and decision day.
Who do you want here, Justin? Any early inklings? I mean,
I thought about it. Who I really don't want is Dallas. You know who I actually would like? And I also don't want San Jose. I would actually like Austin. I think Austin would be a fun one. I think we have their number.
Yeah.
I feel comfortable about playing Austin. I think we could take Minnesota, and I think we could take Kansas City, but I do not want Dallas just because I think they have enough firepower U.S. men's national team wise to maybe scoot one out. And same with San Jose. When you think about Caden Cowles, some of those guys, Abobase, I don't really want to play big names like that. Give me Austin. Who do you want?
See, I'm fine with either of those teams. I don't mind either of them. I'm confident in our team to beat them over the course of 3 games, with 2 of them being at home. I don't want Portland. I think Portland's been coming alive recently, and they haven't qualified yet, but they're next to just below Houston. I definitely don't want Houston. And like, there's just so many people we could still play at this point. So I mean, anyone above Houston, obviously, I'm looking to avoid, but. No preference. I think Austin, if I had my pick, would definitely be it. But I mean, keep in mind, Austin has to move up, and they also have to win the wild card game. So there's a lot that we're asking of these teams to do it. So I'm excited to see how this pans out, because there's some games this weekend as well. I know we're not playing this weekend, but there are some games that we'll be keeping an eye on.
Yeah, you got to look at it because we played 33 games, which is the most in the West, which is fine. We already have it locked up. But FC Dallas sitting in 9th spot, they have a game in hand on pretty much everyone that they're competing with right now. They've only played 31, while the majority of the teams around them have played 32. So them only being up 2 points out of the 7th spot is pretty important for them. So a lot to be said. I will say we'll come out with an episode specifically on decision day after these games have finished, and then we can kind of look in what we actually need to talk through specifically on decision day.
Yep. I'm with it. Well, that is all we have for this episode today for you all. Hopefully we're not thinking too much about this game moving forward here. As Justin mentioned, we are talking to former assistant referee for FIFA, George Gansner, coming up tomorrow to answer your questions and clarify these rules and regulations that we've seen pop up with handballs and VAR and all this stuff throughout the season. So DM us questions that you have. Be sure to do that by tomorrow morning before we chat with him. But looking forward to that. Hopefully going to get a specialist perspective from the dark side, the referee side.
Send us the DMs on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. While you're on the YouTube as well, smash that like button, hit subscribe, leave us reviews, comments on Apple and Spotify as well. Just trying to do better. And we'll be coming out with an episode, and we'll post about it more, that we'll be doing a live episode coming up in these next 2 weeks while we're in a lull to do fan questions. So feel free to send those along. We'll be posting those out there, and we'll let you guys know when that is as well.
Awesome. Okay, well, everyone take care. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll catch up with you probably at some point on the weekend or early next week to do, like Justin mentioned, a little referee episode, maybe some listener questions as well. But until then, all for City.
All for City.